So I wanted to go over homework 0, the complexity assignment, because to give you guys a chance to kind of go over the particular material. So for this assignment, what you're going to be doing is you're basically going to be looking at a series of 4 loops, and you want to find out what the time complexity is and explain how you came to that conclusion. That's all I'm looking for. So I wanted to give you kind of a way to help you kind of understand how do you calculate the complexity. So there's essentially 2 ways. The first way is kind of just more of an empirical way, basically a hand calculation. First off, what you do is you assign a value to the limiting variable. So you need to find out which variable for the particular algorithm is the one that limits it. It's usually the number of counts you do. So say if like an image processing, it'd be the number of pixels or something like that. Then you calculate the number of steps in the program given the value you assign to the limiting variable. So say you give a number, say it's a number of pixels, and you say there's a million pixels, and then you can basically calculate how long it would take for that. Then you actually recalculate the value with increase. So say you start with a 1,000,000 pixel algorithm, then you go to 2 million, then you see how long it takes based on that. And then for those cases, you basically calculate the number of steps or the time it takes, and then note the change, and then kind of see if it's empirical, or see if it's linear, quadratic, exponential growth between the thumbs. Sometimes you might need to do the step a few times to kind of see what the pattern is. But generally, you can see it in 1 or 2 tries. And then you can also do it analytically. What this means is you just look at the code and the structures and kind of figure out what it is. Well, do I got a nested loop here with this many values? It's probably going to be this sort of thing. So the hand calculation method is basically kind of doing the math and kind of counting the values, with an analytical method is based on, you just kind of do estimates based on what the algorithms are. So if you see nested loops, they tend to be quadratic or something like that. So I wanted to work through question 1 of the assignment. You'll do questions 2 and 3 on your own, or 2, 3, and 4 on your own. So for this particular one, I want you to calculate, what the complexity is. So if the value, first you want to do is find the limiting value. In this case, the variables we have are control 1, I, N, and J. And notice that J, control 1, and I are all assigned the loop. So that means that probably the contributing value, the limiting value, is going to be the N value. In this case, it is. And so for this loop, we have a nested loop where the first value is going to assign, and then within that loop, we have a second layer that gets assigned. So in this case, this value down here will get reassigned every time this loop finishes 1 step. And so we have the limiting value of N, and what you want to do is next we would assign a value to that. So in this case, 10. So with its limited value 10, so basically count how many times this loop would run, or kind of estimate it. And so for the for loop, is basically essentially squaring the value. So basically we do 100 iterations on this particular loop. Now the next thing is kind of figure out what the step is going to be for the next case. So instead of assigning the value then to 10, I'm going to change it to 20. And then with 20, we're essentially count the values again. In this case, you can kind of just assume you can square it, and then you get 400 for the number of iterations for this particular this loop. So this is clearly having a quadratic growth, where 10 squared is 100, or 20 squared is 400. So you have quadratic growth for this one. So you'd say the estimate is quadratic. Now going forward for the previous ones, I'm telling you they're not, the other ones coming up are not quadratic, but kind of give you an estimate of what they are, and then most importantly, just explain how you came to that answer. Being able to explain it to me or to other people is kind of what the growth would be for this particular assignment. So helps you get started with the assignment, and I will be seeing you in a few weeks.